Why do Middle Eastern immigrants often take Russia's side in the war? A lot of nonsense in the comments and very few actual, real answers. So here's my opinion as an Arab, Muslim, Syrian. I will be talking about Arabs generally, which mean it doesn't necessarily apply to Arabs in Europe or every single Arab. A lot, but not all, maybe not even most, of Arabs support Russia for a few reasons, which mainly are geopolitical. Very few Arabs view the West positively. That's especially the big three: US, UK, and France. And especially after the Iraq invasion, Russia's role in the ME is smaller and doesn't appear much more brutal than the West's. Some might bring up Syria. Well, Russia was supporting a side in a civil war, not necessarily seen as an aggressor by all, and was generally more effective in defeating ISIS and bringing more stability to Syria. The US pretty much destroyed Mosul and Raqqa in order to defeat ISIS. I personally acknowledge that Russia did a lot of atrocities in Syria, but struggle to see an actual better alternative. Secondly, and more importantly these days, a lot of Arabs see a clear hypocrisy in the West's attitude towards Palestine and Ukraine. While the West's at best ignore the atrocities happening in Palestine and often supports Israel, they quickly jump to Ukraine's aid. In the West's eyes, helping Ukraine was a must, and justified by a number of values and reasons that many Arabs consider to apply to Palestine as well. So, many came to the conclusion that this is just about geopolitics and one must support what's best for them. Thus, the view of Arabs and Arab governments range all the way from pro-Russia to lukewarm. And some are also pro-Ukraine. At the moment, that's what I can come up with. The West has pretty much ruined their reputation in the Arab world. And for many it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Same reason most Americans take Israel's side in the war. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Non-zero factor is that UAE's president is Jewish. Middle Eastern here. Christian not Muslim though. Some ideologies are different. I felt compelled to answer since most of the commenters are not from the region. Most of the ME supports Russia due to the fact that most hate the US for its long history of intervention and destruction in the region. Many countries are allies to Russia too, like Syria. For all the people that say we hate Jews, most of us don't. We hate Zionists. The radicals that make the headlines hate the Jews. Jews have been part of our history and communities for thousands of years before that creation of Israel. For my personal opinions, I am pro-Ukraine in the Russian-Ukrainian war. Not fully supporting them, but I prefer them over Russia. For the Israel-Palestine conflict, I am pro-Palestinian civilians. Fuck Hamas and fuck Israel. Both have done so much harm to my community over the years. I wish they can reach an agreement. Highly unlikely, where the innocent Palestinians are not being massacred and the Israeli hostages can return safely to their families. Please feel free to message me about anything regarding the region here and the point of view of Middle Eastern people. I'll be more than happy to discuss. Edit. For op. I've been to Sweden recently for vacation and I saw that most of the new wave of illegal immigrants and asylum seekers that flooded Europe are on the more radical side of the spectrum. So I know how extreme they tend to act. Middle Easterners hate the West. The enemy of my enemy is a friend. It's because they are blindly anti-West. It doesn't matter to them that the administration that destroyed Iraq is long gone. They completely ignore what Russia has done in Syria. US bad, therefore Russia good. Probably, they are immigrants because America bombed their country. False. Generalizing. They hate the West, whatever it thinks it is. With notable exceptions, the USSR, and by extension the Russian Federation, haven't been bombing the hell out of their countries for 40 years. Some ME countries, like Syria, are allies of Russia. Most ME countries hate Jews. UA president is one. Most ME countries are enemies of Israel. See point 2. Israel is an ally of the US and EU, the West, who are supporters of UA. Many people see the West and Western imperialism as the root of all that is wrong with the world. Russia is an opposer of the West. Thus it's one of the good guys. It looks like the American neckbeards who have never been to the Middle East and still view Middle Easterners as unidimensional people have already provided their astute responses. No, your premise is wrong. Public opinion is relatively divided, but most people don't seem to have a stance. The general view is that it's not their war. In a survey by YouGov for Arab News, 2/3 of people say they have no stance on the conflict, with 18% saying they support Ukraine and 16% they support Russia. Support for Ukraine increases among women and people from the Gulf countries. A thin majority favors solving the conflict diplomatically, 53%, with a third saying they should remain neutral. Distrust for Russian news media is much higher than that of Western media. There are reasons why a certain part of the population of the Middle East leans towards Russia's defense, without necessarily siding with Russia's geopolitics, while also sympathizing with the Ukrainian people. Like other countries, the favorability of a country in the Middle East fluctuates depending on how conflicts evolve in the region, and who is involved. There was a time during the Russian invasion of Afghanistan and war on Chechnya where Russia was the evil man, killing Muslims. But that has been largely surpassed by the US military interventions in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria and Yemen, which, with all of its scandals from lying about WMD, Abu Ghraib, financing radical groups that later joined ISIS, to its continued military support to Israel despite the high number of deaths that has surpassed threefold that of Ukraine, etc., has shaped people's views of geopolitics and built a strong distrust following the justifications made for these U.S. interventions. Support towards Russia is mainly driven by anti-Western sentiments as some sort of sense of balance, given what one side has done, without forgetting what the other is doing. Edit. Here is an interesting analysis by Amr Salah. Because Russia supported many Middle Eastern countries during the Cold War, it's that simple. Because they view Russia as forcefully reclaiming land they once possessed, and Russia has ties to Syria and other Muslim countries primarily to create opposition to Western interests in the region. Useful idiots. Because they take the anti-American side. ITV's a matter of principle. If Americans fight AIDS and cancer, they root for cancer.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.